Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast.
Are you warming up your vocals? Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Testing 1, 2. The theologian wore orange socks.
Do re mi.
The theologian wore orange socks. I'm ready.
I'm ready too. Let's do it, guy.
Oh, wait, what?
Hey, let's do it.
I thought you were from Chicago, not
Chicago. I need a pizza
where?
pie. Huh?
Brooklyn. That was like a Brooklyn or maybe a Boston accent.
Steve,
right,
this is all you. Let's do this.
Me, baby. Let's do this. Well, welcome back to the show today.
We're recording right now?
Yes,
Been
we're
recording.
We've been recording, yeah. So, I know.
Hey, Jake,
We're leaving
you're
it-
in a podcast studio right
Yeah,
now. We're recording a podcast.
And where am I? Well, welcome.
I think he needs some of that red flannel coffee.
I think
He's
he does.
advertising.
Waking me up this morning.
Hello, yeah. So, welcome back to another week of the Faith Forged in Fire podcast. We're, what's our motto again? Oh, we embrace the fires that forge our character.
Embracing the fires.
Embracing the fires that forge our character. Like that. Well, I was close.
Close enough.
Close enough, you know. Well, hey, welcome back. Like I said, we had another great week here, and this week we wanted to go ahead and get back to our listener submitted ideas.
Woo.
And boy, I'll tell you, we got a listener. She is rocking and rolling. You know, it must be
Producer Courtney?
Producer Courtney.
Yeah.
No, Courtney. Ever since I got her that bag of coffee, she's been exploding.
That
dude.
must be some good
Listen,
coffee, man.
That's some good coffee. Hey, you know what? You never
Steve,
know.
1 + 1 = 2. Coffee plus Courtney equals...
And not just any coffee.
Podcast
Not that
episode. Not just
Starbucks
any.
junk he was
No,
talking
that
about
garbage,
last week.
That garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who drinks that? I don't drink any of that.
Yeah, I got voted down on kicking Steve off the podcast, so...
Oh, they were
I
close,
didn't
though.
vote you down.
They were close.
He's like, it would have been unanimous. Oh, man.
I didn't know we were voting. You didn't ask.
Raise the hands.
See, he's even voting.
He voted for himself to get kicked off, yeah.
What do you think, Rich? Nah, none.
Traitor.
Exactly. No, we wanted to get back to our listener submitted idea, and our lovely friend Courtney from Virginia, who gave us a great idea for an episode we had a few weeks ago. She wrote back to us, and she was super just excited to kind of help us out and to kind of she goes, I have loads of ideas. I'm like, good, bring them. Keep bringing them. Courtney, bring your ideas. Your
Steve
Steve doesn't have any.
Yeah, I have the.
He doesn't even know what he wants sent to his inbox. Just send him stuff.
Just send him
whatever,
stuff, yeah.
whatever you think about, just send it to me.
And wherever you watch your podcasts on your tube television, make sure you set your VCR to record it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't do the promotions anymore. I'm losing it. No, but Courtney, so she had a really, really good idea, which I thought was actually a really good topic, and I think it's something that definitely happens in the firehouse. And
Well,
really,
what is it, Steve?
Yeah, we're
Funny
bouncing
enough.
around this a lot. aren't we?
Funny enough, I'm
3 minutes in, people don't even know what we're talking about.
So the idea, the idea that what we were going to talk about, that Courtney submitted, was: can first responders really rebuild trust after a betrayal?
Oh. Yes. Let's move on. Next topic.
Next topic. All right. Show's over. Oh, so no, I was thinking about it like that, and thinking about that, I was kind of looking up. I had a site that I usually look at, and I used to go to
Google.
Well, no, I look up for some biblical stuff. No, that's when I look up biblical stuff. I would look these things up on a site just to kind of how do I answer it?
Just any random site.
No, I was going to get there. Boy, I'll tell you, I am really.
I was on redflannelcoffeecode.com and
we're looking at Betrayal.
I couldn't find any theology there.
But I found some great coffee, though.
Oh, man.
My goodness.
Poor Steve.
I know.
See, last time we got bored and we fought. We argued.
Yeah, we did.
Now
Yeah.
it's just bust on Steve.
Now we got it out of our system.
We got it out of our system. Now we're now we're together as
now
one,
we're
and
giving
you're
it
in
to Steve.
trouble.
That's right.
It's better for you for arguing than when
we've
we're
joined forces.
So 2-on-1. They're teaming up on me. here,
Anyways, so you were asking old Uncle Google a question.
No, I go to Got Questions. That's a good site.
Yeah, that is a good site, by the way.
Got
I
questions?
do.
Gotquestions.org.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's Got
It is a very good site.
You need to go over
for
to Got
questions,
you know?
Biblical questions.
It's a great spot, man.
My internet browser goes to one website, and you know what that website is.
It's one and one website only.
It's redflannelcoffeego.com.
Oh, I love that.
It makes finding directions awfully hard. I get lost. There's no map system.
But
there.
he's got good coffee, so it doesn't matter.
So where else do I need to be? I'm sorry.
We
Steve.
won't even need to promote the coffee at the end of the show.
We've done that already.
Yeah. Well,
so
we had to make up this one
so
for
let's-
you
let's say it
mentioning
again.
the S word last time.
I will.
Shit, I know I was swearing. I accidentally said that. I said a swear word.
I
here
will
last time.
try to remember, and it's not easy because by the time I upload this, it will be a little ways down the road. But I will try to remember to put it down in the description. But gotquestions.org, fantastic site for getting biblical questions. And any of those things. Oh, we got to turn that off. That's what I'm hearing in my ear.
Oh, is that what it is? Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
sorry,
on.
guys. We
Time
got our
out,
air
time
conditioner
out,
going.
Time out. Hold on.
Does your remote work?
It doesn't work because it's facing away.
Oh, my goodness. Man, I'll tell you.
Sorry about that, guys.
Turn the AC off in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So anyways, and by the way, every single show, because it's so hot up here, we lose our camera at some point. So
Well, we
that's
shouldn't
fine.
just show the
We'll just keep
thing
going.
running.
God, it's true.
it's like
we should be good.
So
this time.
it's like a chill in here
anyways,
now, so.
like anything, you always want to be careful and make sure that it's accurate. But I have found Got Questions to be a fantastic site.
Yes.
That it's simple, but it gives some depth. So anyway, Steve.
So according to that, and I was thinking about this because this is obviously in any place in life we get betrayed at some point. Whether it's
let's
the
talk
workplace
about
or not, right?
this for a minute, though. Why is it so different with first responders, or is it different with first responders? Because I think it's different.
Or were you going to get there?
Oh, do you have something to say? Go ahead, buddy.
No, I just asked a question, and he said, "Are you going to get there?"
I said,
What's that?
Because you said, no, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Is it different? I said, or were you going to get there?
No,
Is that what your
I was
thought
going to get there, yeah. But I know we're talking about the first, and you're right. It is a little bit different.
I'm not right. I didn't say anything.
No, I was talking about.
You pointed at
Josh
me.
here.
You know what? I am right. That's fine.
He's always right. That's why we argue.
That's why we are. Yeah. That's what I was going to get around to saying. What was the question again? It was.
Well, no, you're talking about.
Is it different in the?
Is it different?
EMS
fire
world?
Why
service
is it
and
different, or
public
is
safety?
it different? And I think it's different. I
And
shouldn't
public
have said
safety.
that because now he's going to say it's not different.
Yeah, it's definitely not different.
No,
I'm
it is.
kidding. No,
Well-
I do think it's different. I mean, well, you know what? I think it's different. It's different in every circumstance.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Sorry, go ahead. What were we?
No, well,
I feel
I'm
like I keep interrupting.
No,
you.
no,
I'm
no, it's
sorry.
okay. Well, I was thinking about the difference. Where the first thing that came to mind is that you're at a full-time department. That's someone you're living with for 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
little. It's just like it. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's like a betrayal in your household, right? If you're God forbid, if your wife makes a bad choice with another man, that's a big betrayal. That's someone that's close to you
Right.
in your circle. Just like your workmate at the firehouse is, you develop such a close relationship.
Yeah.
With that teammate
Right.
at the firehouse that it's kind of like in a
Or
way.
if you're on an ambulance, there's two of you on there for however many hours your shift is. Like there's, not to mention that there's this level of trust that you might not have in other areas that you need to have. As in, not every day do you go to work and have to trust the person next to you that they're going to have your back and save your life if needed. Whereas in the first responder world, there's that certain level of trust that you need to have. So it
I think it is different in the EMS world, or in the let's call it the first responder world.
Right.
Police, fire, EMS, all that. Because you hold the public's trust in your hands. So it's not necessarily a betrayal. I mean, not necessarily. It is. It's not only a betrayal, depending on what it is, to your teammate, whoever, but it's also potentially a betrayal to the public.
Yeah, there's a
So-
whole nother level added
Yes.
if it's a betrayal
Yeah.
to the public and not just a
Right.
betrayal to your drill. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to call that out because as we
No, definitely. So
dive
then
into
the question
this,
is, can you overcome that betrayal?
Yes.
Absolutely, you can.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
absolutely, you can. Well, let's go back. I want to think about let's go back biblically and think about in the Bible. There's been a number of areas of betrayal in the Bible, right? So you think of the first thing that came to mind, and I was kind of reading this as I was thinking about, King David, right? And he was no stranger to that. And I have here in the Psalm 55, 12, 14, it says, if an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were raising himself against me, I could hide from him. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship as we walked with the throng at the house of God. So like here you have a close relationship with someone that just completely betrays you. And it's like, it's just the amount of the trust that is broken with that individual. And the pain that we deal with. So we've seen people look at Joseph and his brothers, right? And his brothers betrayed him and threw him.
Like Job and his friends.
Right? Yeah,
Jerks.
Yeah. Look at Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Jesus had it with Judas.
Yeah.
Judas Iscariot.
And Peter.
And Peter, right?
Yeah.
So we see a number of areas of distrust and betrayal in the Bible that so we have examples of distrust and betrayal. But yeah, I mean, think about it. Have you guys ever, let me ask you this. Is it something that you guys experienced at the firehouse or on your cruise? Let me just throw it back at you.
At different levels.
I can't speak of that because I've never worked at the actual firehouse.
Yeah.
I think it happens everywhere at certain levels. But
I will say
depends
nothing
on the
that I can
level.
say on here, only because of it. Yeah. It would.
Well, let me ask you this.
I don't know how to say it.
And I say
There's
this because
people who know
I'm,
each other
Sure.
and different
But,
relationships and yes.
Well, let me ask you, like, how? Let's not talk about specifics, right? But
There was this guy, Rich. He stabbed me hard in the back.
Well, he did vote no on getting rid of Steve.
There might be a reason.
yeah,
There's
thanks, Rich.
Rescue Randy's over there instead
That's
of Rich
right.
now.
Yeah,
Yep, Ranger Rick
There
over
are
here.
some things we don't get over.
yeah.
That's true.
But no, it's something like you were saying. It's
Yeah.
something different, and
So
to a different level.
So there's real, and it is real, and it's hard to get over. And so here's what I was thinking about. What happens? There's two answers to this, and if they are repentant of it,
sure,
and if they are not,
yeah,
right?
I
So
totally
there's
agree.
two ways to deal with that, and even if they're repentant, depending on what it is, it can take a lot of time. Like I had on here, restoration is a process, not a switch. It's not like just okay, they've apologized, they've repented, right? Because apology is different than repentance. Repentance is actually changing their mind and their heart about it. So they genuinely realize what they did and are sorry for that. That does not mean that just instantly everything's going to be better. There's going to be a process there.
Right.
But I think about things I've dealt with, and there was no repent. There was no sorrow for it whatsoever.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that if you go back to the question is, can you rebuild trust? I think that's an interesting question because even in my notes, I have it more on the thought of forgiveness than trust. Because can I forgive? Yes, but can I trust? I can think of some situations where I forgive and when it happens, because there's sometimes where it happens again and again, and the forgiveness, that's my responsibility to deal with that. But do I trust them? No, I'm very careful what I say or do around them.
Well, and that's just using
to not put myself in
judgment.
that. Right. So, and that was the question. Can you really rebuild trust? And I think the answer is yes, but not in every situation.
Well, first off, it takes time to build the trust back, right? And I think there's a number of factors you need to look at. First off, what is the betrayal, right? How deep is the betrayal? Is it a small betrayal? Is it a very deep betrayal? Because as humans, we make mistakes, right? And I guess you have to define betrayal, I guess, in the sense, because Is it something where someone realized that they betrayed you? Was it done on purpose? Was it an accidental thing? So, I guess it depends first off on what we're talking about specifically.
Well,
right?
I think you just hit on two key themes: intent and then repentance.
Yeah.
What was their intent behind the betrayal, or was their intent behind the betrayal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
Are
a whole
they
nother
repentant?
lane, right?
Yeah.
Did they do it and not even mean to?
Right.
Yeah, because
So then is there repentance behind that? Especially if they didn't mean to, there probably is. If it was intended, well, then probably not.
So, but I think, like, I guess if you're thinking about the word betrayal, that almost seems like it's intentional, right? So it's so even like in the you would probably look at that. I mean, I guess maybe if we narrow this down, let's just say someone that knowingly was betraying you. They went into something like I know what I'm doing here. I'm gonna do something that I know it's wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna hurt this individual.
I will say there's nothing that I can think of the top of my head right now of a form of betrayal that is unintended. I can't think of anything right now.
I know exactly
unintended.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because we have to define betrayal. So I would look at that as an intentional thing.
Yep. No,
right?
I would agree with you.
So
there.
so then you look at that and you're thinking, if someone that I knew that I had a relationship with, and again, I guess you have to say, is it a good friend? Is this someone that just a coworker? I mean, I guess we have to define some of those parameters,
Sure.
but because if it's a coworker, well,
the question is in the first responder world, right? So
we can assume it's a coworker.
it's a coworker. But I'm saying
yeah.
you also can have a coworker that's you're someone you're close with, though. I guess what I'm trying to say, right? So if you have someone that you're a coworker, but let's say you're on the 24-hour shift and you worked at the same station for 5 years, so you got very close with them, right? So now you're talking about a betrayal of someone that not only is your coworker, but someone that you're very close to, right? And that's a hard one. Like, how do you? Because
and that's why I think it's different in the first responder world, because often you are just by nature a little closer. We call it a brotherhood for a reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
It's different than the random person that you work with that kind of moves in and out of your.
It's different in the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, chances are if there's a betrayal, it's because they're trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Climb the corporate ladder,
and that's almost to be expected. Not that it should be condoned. It's just you can normally figure that's going to happen.
So what I've seen, and I'm thinking like an example, and one thing that I think was very common at one point is that when I worked in the fire world, it was very common for guys to, some guy leaving his house at work and going to the station, and the guy coming off shift going over to the station, going over to his house and taking care of business there, and that was a very common thing for a while. We were like, wow, here
I know what you're thinking.
Just the way that is
taking care of business.
I know. I'm trying to be very.
We keep it.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it very. I'm trying to be very. But I'm saying
Cracked me up the way.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
it was unexpected.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was. He dove all the way in on that one.
I know, but
I was thinking like betrayed it, like work.
But I'm saying it.
My mistake was looking at you and seeing you smirking, because then I was like, well,
how do we?
Now I
this?
can't look away because now I'm starting to smirk. And that's how the show gets derailed. Is
exactly just like that. Just like that.
It's a look, and then it's like
we would probably be much better off to podcast in cubicles.
Probably. Anyways,
but
Steve,
that's
sorry.
a specific betrayal that I remember. Why? And I was always thinking to myself, wow, like this is supposed to be a brotherhood. Man, that's kind of a weird brotherhood right there. But it was very common, right? Because now you've created a division, not just with the individuals, but actually with like a crew of people, because we're thinking, well, now we got this guy, because if this person can't trust him, now no one can trust him.
You're cracking me up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're cracking me up. Man, what kind of brotherhood is this?
Well, I mean, when I was early on in the fire service, I'm thinking, well, this is a pretty interesting, this is. But I'm just saying that was something that I remember it being talked about in the stories and stuff, and going, wow, that is how do you, and I actually knew people. Both spouses that one was a firefighter, one was that worked somewhere else in the fire department, and those kind of things happen. And I'm thinking, my goodness, like what do you do? Like
and then, I mean, because that's gonna sow toxicity in the workplace and distrust and, like you said, betrayal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you work with that person again? And you're looking at them going, I know what you did, and it's supposed to be a brotherhood here, and you've completely taken that, and again, and now if you're doing it with me, who knows if there's somebody else on the job you're doing it with.
Even in a bigger higher level overview of that is, if I can't trust you here, how can I trust you in any other capacity?
Yeah.
Right.
So if I can't, trust you to, be a brother and be a friend, then how can I trust you on the fire ground? How can I trust you,
We've talked about that before, in that when we're bringing baggage into work as a first responder, it can impact those split-second decisions because your mind might not be where it needs to be to keep me safe.
Right.
Yeah.
And in this case, now it's almost going both ways, because I'm worrying about, can I trust you? And you're worrying about, do they know, or whatever,
Yes,
and you can't just do the job.
One of the things that we
Yeah.
So
one of the things that we went over in a previous job that I held, where we did some very dangerous training. I don't want to say it was dangerous training. It was dangerous. But we would begin that training with, where's your mind at right now?
Yeah.
If it's not here, get it here. And we would take that moment, because of the implications that could happen if anybody slipped up. It could mean somebody's life. And so it was, where is your mind at? Where is your body at? Where's your spirit at? Mm-hmm. Because you got to be right in all of those if you're going to do this, because it can, it has big implications. So to your point, that's...
So then I guess my question is, what does it take to restore that trust then? Because I think you can. Biblically you can, but what does it take?
Biblically, you restore the trust or restore... I don't even want to say restore, but you can forgive them.
Well,
but I don't necessarily think you have to trust them again.
I didn't say you have to. You can.
You can. Yeah.
Right. So what does it take? Because that's the question, right? Can you really do that? So if we're going to do that, then what does it take to get there?
Well, I think it's going to take some very candid conversations with that person. It's going to be probably uncomfortable for a while. But you have to, sometimes you have to, our embracing the fires and all of that came to mind, but you have to, you have to face those difficulties at times, and you have to do it head on at times, because there's no way around things at times, and you just have to do it, head on. And so it's having those candid conversations with those people, and letting them know where you stand within that betrayal,
right?
So that they know where you're coming from when you bring that to them. It's because of this.
Right.
And this was the impact that it had. This is so topical. I was just having a conversation with another leader today about impact versus intent. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily about what you intended to do, but it's about the impact that you left after you did it.
Right.
And so you need to have that conversation with them of, you may have intended to do this, but this was the impact of that. And that's where that betrayal came in. And so then it's working through that, and then it's going to take a willingness on their part to be repentant, to say, you know what, I was wrong. So again, go ahead.
I'm going to say, what if, and I'm trying to think. So this is such a good question, and it's such a hard answer, but I'm trying to help us answer it right as best we can, and just thinking this through. So it's possible that in your illustration you talked about in the corporate world, one of those ways of being betrayed might be your buddy or your friend that you've spent years with on a shift, and they see an opportunity for promotion, and maybe you're both up for promotion, and in what we might say a moment of weakness or whatever, they betray you, they stab you in the back, whatever they got to do, they get that promotion. And they see it, they did it on purpose, but they see it as, I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
Now you're stuck working with them, let's say.
Or working for them.
Working for them. And then is it possible to rebuild that trust even if they aren't repentant in that moment? And I think it is over time.
Right. Because
it could be, and I feel like we're just fishing for all these little, but it's such a broad thing.
It really is.
But I feel like because they did it once, for say if it's something like that, it might not mean that they're just always
right, that
you can never trust them, but it's going to take a long time. You still have to have that. You absolutely have to have that conversation of, look.
Oh, you do, yeah.
Look, you
because normally the way that looks is within that interview for the promotion or whatever it is, they find a way to slip in some sort of seed of distrust in that other person in order to gain that advantage over them, right? And so, again, to rebuild that trust, like you said, it's going to take time, because really what it comes down to is it's going to take evidence that, you know,
it's fruit, right?
It's fruit.
A lot, but it takes a lot. It doesn't take one time. It takes a lot of fruit to go, okay.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it goes, it's kind of like that, I forget where I saw it. Somebody asked, because they were talking about, you know, well, can you prove God? Well, no, I can't prove God, but the evidence tells me he's there. The evidence tells me that he exists through creation and through relations and everything else. So it comes down to, you know, can you prove that your mom loves you? Well, I can't prove it. I've got no way of proving it. But the evidence over the course of my life, over this duration of time, shows that she does, through the things that she has done for me, the way that she has treated me, and our relationship that we have built. So that, I think, is what it's going to take to rebuild that trust. It's going to take that time. It's going to take that open communication. And then you have to look at the evidence of how did they respond to that? How did they respond to that initial, you know, not really confrontation, but confronting them about the betrayal? How did they respond after that? How have they responded ever since then? And it's going to be lining up these little things of evidence, pieces of evidence, to show that they're trustworthy, that maybe they made a mistake in that, and maybe they didn't think through the full implications of that. And maybe it was, you know, it was being selfish in that moment, but
yeah. Well, and what I want to preface too is, even before we get to that point, I think the first thing, because remember, the moment you find out about betrayal, there's a lot going through your mind, right? And so I think like the first step that I would say for anybody that's felt a betrayal is really cry out to God and say, Lord, I need your help, because like, I mean, and depending who you are, you know, the first thought process is, I want to take them outside and, you know, and
put them in their car and tell them.
I want to go mafia style here, you know, and I want to, you know,
Steve.
I know.
He just is all in tonight. He's going worst case scenario on everything.
We're gonna have to put a content warning on the beginning of this episode.
I know. Yeah, it's like PG-13.
We're at least PG-13 now, Steve.
No,
some
but
adult
I mean,
situations.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I know, I'm sorry.
I never thought we'd get here.
I know.
Frankly, I feel a little betrayed.
I don't think I'm okay with it. I think he's going to have to sit quietly while we finish this. He's going to have to earn back our
guys.
trust.
I know I have to earn back. I know.
I'm bad. I'm about.
But no, but I think what we do, the first thing you want to do is we cry out to God, because again, our first emotion is we want to, as men, you're so angry.
What if you're a woman?
Well, okay. Well, maybe even a woman, same thing. You're so angry that sometimes you want to lash out in some way, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's physically or it's verbally, right? So I think really approaching God with this and saying, Lord, give me the words to say, give me the peace, give me the strength I need to confront this individual, because, you know, again, you get emotional and you start saying things you shouldn't say because you're pretty fired up, right? So I think that's, you know, we talk about the steps of how to handle this. I think first and foremost, let's cry out to God. Let's really ask for the guidance for God, the Lord's guidance.
And your own attitude, because there are certain, you know, we talk about this in levels. There are certain levels where a confrontation is not, it's not going to happen. You're just not, it's not best. It's not needed. It's not, you know, I think about something that happened to me, you know, level wise, it wasn't very deep, but yet it, you know, it wasn't like this major thing, but it was like, when it happened, I could not believe it. You know, it went from a conversation in which it seemed like everything was good between myself and this other person to now I'm getting in trouble from somebody else because we had this conversation and he tells me he's good, no problem, and then goes to officers and says something else, and then and so my instant reaction is I do want to confront this guy and be like, how dare you? But I realized, you know, in my mind, then it was no. Christ said, "Forgive them; they don't know what they're doing."
Sure,
right? We, as a Christian, I have to realize that at least in the case when it's an unsaved person, for one thing, you give them a lot of grace because it's lost people doing what lost people do.
Right. I do want to clarify when I say confront the problem, I mean have that conversation.
Well,
I'm not saying get confrontational.
No. I know. I wanted in that moment to get confrontational, right? But in yours as well. Another thing, I'm not like close to this guy.
Sure.
If it was, let's say it's you or Steve.
I thought we were close.
Now there's a whole. Well, that's what I'm saying. Now there's a whole nother responsibility because it's a close relationship.
Right.
So again, another layer. But so in that moment, it was no. I just need to. It was more about my pride. I really like. Okay, this is my pride got hurt because I got wronged.
Yeah.
And no, it's okay. I'm gonna forgive. Now that also means that I'm very careful what I say and do around that person.
Oh yeah.
But not out of anger, but because I now know I just can't trust you. Also, I'm not going to confront them because I can't trust what they're going to do with that confrontation.
I think
so. My heart has to be forgiving.
I think there can be both.
On.
I think you can forgive them, and I think you can move on. But I still think it's important to call it out. And that doesn't necessarily mean in private. It means finding a trusted like officer or leader or somebody that is a mediary between you two that you can then have them present during that time and say, hey, listen, this is what went wrong. And this is my issue with this.
Unless there are none.
Unless there are none. Well, yeah. And then, I mean, that's
right. Because I agree with you. I would agree with you.
Case. But yeah, I think if it's, especially on the, the course of either, in the world of first response, and I'll tell you where it really gets tough is not just for fire, but for police, because and I'm not going to bring up the thin blue line or anything like that, but
you just did.
They have to rely on each other so much, and they have to know that they have each other's backs. And so when you're betrayed by another officer in a certain way that may not have been out in the field, it has ramifications or implications in the field, though, if you do confront them. And I'm bringing that up because I think for what we're speaking about, we can speak for the fire stuff, even the EMS stuff, but nothing that I've said tonight, this morning, whatever time it is, specifically applies to police, because I don't want to speak on their behalf, because that is such a different, unique thing. I would rather have a police officer.
That's why we generally stick to the fire side.
To say that. But we've talked about first response from the beginning.
Because there's some things that are
there are some things.
I think it's good for you to call out because it's such a different thing.
It's such a different thing, and so that's what I'm saying is I don't want to speak on behalf of them, and because it could be totally different in that world than it is with fire and EMS. So.
But what you said again brings us back to what I asked in the beginning: is it different? And when you work at a factory or you work, someplace like that, somebody betrays you, and now there's biblical principles for bitterness, so I'm not talking about that.
Sure.
But if somebody betrays you and you just quit talking to them, there's no conversation, and you work in a factory or someplace like that, you can probably work every day that way. It might be miserable, but you can do it. And any of the first, whether it's police, fire, EMS, you can't function and truly rely on them
that brings up a good point
in that life-saving matter if you're in that. We are not even communicating.
See, that's one of the very unique things about the first response world, including police, for this specific thing, is that it's so relational. That part of your job is building relationships with others. Whereas in a factory or in the corporate world, the business world or whatever, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of that in there, but it's not, if you're working a 9 to 5 on a factory line, it's not as important that you build relationships with people throughout the warehouse as it is when you're in the firehouse or in a police cruiser or on an ambulance, where you're going to be spending 12 or 24 hours or at least 8 hours of your day relying on each other. It's not just working with each other, it's relying on each other that whole time. So that's one of the unique, principles of that job is it's very relational. And so you have to have that part. So where you're right is you can't just be quiet. You can't just clam up and not speak to, your brothers and sisters that are on duty with you. They have to know that you're in the game again. Where's your mind right now? If your mind is stuck on that thing, again, that goes back to, you got to have that mediation. You've got to be able to work through that. And I think that's really one of the important pieces of what we're talking about tonight, is that it's important to work through that problem, whatever it is. Yeah. It's not going to be comfortable. It's probably not going to be easy. It may have a bad outcome. But for you to still be in the game, and for them to still be in the game, and for everybody to still be able to work together, those things have to be called out and brought to the surface so that it can be worked through
in whatever way. And you hope that the person you're speaking to, the one that did the betrayal, would be understanding too, because that's got to be worse too. Here you're trying to keep cool and like, we got a problem here, and there's a problem, and then we talk about it, and you try to deny it or play games with that topic, which is like, are you kidding me? So, and I would think, and probably in some settings. And again, when we're all adults here and we say, listen, we know something happened, whatever it may be, and you're right. We want to just, how do we move forward at this point, and what can we do to move forward? And again goes to the whole thing about forgiveness. On top of it, God calls us to forgive, right? And we have to learn. Forget even when it's hard to forgive, right? Forget. Yeah. I always heard, what is it that C.S. Lewis said? Forgive the unforgivable, kind of thing. I think he said, and that's it really, that's what we're called to do. As hard as that is, as human beings, we have to find a way to forgive people, even in those betrayals. But it still doesn't, like you're saying, it's was it forgive but not forget, and we, I don't know. I mean, again, I had never worked in a firehouse, so I can't speak on the whole trust thing when it comes to that. That's your guys'.
That's actually one of his favorite sayings is forgive and forget. Live, laugh, love. Is it, or are we?
I'm just going to mute his microphone. You and I are going to have a conversation.
We'll make it an argument. Let's make it entertaining.
By the way, if you see us looking around, there's a humongous fly in here.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like the size.
Thanks for calling attention to that, Steve.
We're looking around. Well, it's funny.
I didn't see a fly.
What's funny is I'm doing this.
You see
thing.
a fly?
I'm doing this thing, and people go, "What's wrong with Steve?"
There is. There's a big fly.
Well, hey, we have an opportunity to land a plane while the camera's still on.
Let's do that. So I wanted to leave this thought, because I don't know. This is a great question that I don't think has an answer. I mean,
no, I agree with that. Yeah.
The forgiveness side, how we respond as Christians, is pretty clear, but Scripture doesn't say to make us have to trust people necessarily. We can treat them in a Christ-like manner, and that's hard. So when this is not happening, especially when we are betrayed and there's no repentance, and we're in a place where they're still untrustworthy and all of those things, Jesus tells us in Matthew 5:44, "But I say to you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." Yeah. And that is really hard. But we have to also remember that God is working something we don't understand. I think we referred to earlier in the podcast, we referred to Joseph being betrayed by his brothers. Yeah. And in Psalms, it talks about that. Like the exact psalm is not coming to my mind right now, but it's pretty incredible, because it talks about how God is looking out for his people. And it says God sent a famine to the land. And
there goes our camera.
There goes. We made it up. See, if we'd have landed the plane. It says God sent a famine to the land, but he sent Joseph ahead of the famine. Right? So God is, in Psalms, it tells us God is taking care of his people by sending Joseph to Egypt.
Right.
Okay? Joseph says to his brothers, you meant it for evil, God meant it for good. We don't know, in that moment, we don't necessarily know what it means if we're looking at it that way. But in Psalms, it tells us God sent Joseph ahead. How did God send Joseph ahead to take care of his people? By using his brothers to betray him.
Yeah.
So when we talk about praying for our enemies and betrayal, we don't know what God's doing through that betrayal.
Yeah, that reminds me of Steve's story, and we won't get into it because it's long.
Yeah,
but of the coworker you had, and then when they left, finally they were just like,
that's a perfect example.
Like, they were just waiting for you to blow up on them.
Yes.
And betray them.
Yeah,
they were waiting for it, and you never did, and it was
you're right, and that goes on a whole nother road, and especially for the people that are not as on board spiritual wise. That you're right. You don't know where God is taking this situation. And again, in all reality, if something incredible comes out of it, then it's all worth it, right? Even though it's hard, if there's something that incredible spiritually comes, if someone came to Christ because of a betrayal, because of the way you handled it, then you know what? Yeah, it's horrible and it's an awful thing, but someone's come, and then again,
or maybe it's just what God wants to do in your life.
Or that too, like we talked about the fruit thing earlier on today, where it's not, the fruit's not for us, it's for other people. And so you're right, that could be a thing too. So, well, we'll land this plane here because it's getting warm and it's time. So
it's getting warm. We need a plane in here. We always talk about landing the plane. We need some sort of a plane.
We
somewhere.
we need a tanker to hang up there, like it's dropping water on it.
Yes,
that's what we need. Steve, look into that.
Visual effects here. We got to get visual effects. We actually have to get like an actual
looking
plane.
at that for us.
Somebody find us something and send that stuff to ffifpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah,
and Steve, tell them how they can listen to us on their record player and their Victrola
and their favorite podcast too.
And their favorite
because
podcast.
we're not it.
Favorite podcast.
We are not it.
Hopefully it's this podcast, and hopefully that Red Flannel Coffee is your favorite coffee. So, wherever, please watch us on any platform that is a podcast.
You have.
Yeah, and then your favorite podcast platform, watch us there. Also,
Cassette.
you have YouTube if you want to see us. Well, whenever the camera's on, you can
Floppy
see us.
disk.
And then, just write us on ffifpodcast@gmail.com and
by
let us
write
know
us,
your
he
show
means
ideas.
handwritten letter, scan into your computer, sent to
ffifpodcast@gmail.com.
Pretty soon, Steve's going to be like, send it in letterhead, P.O. Box.
Send me a telegram.
It's like Casey Kasem, the top 40. But if you do send a handwritten letter to Steve, please make it like a Civil War soldier. My dearest Stephen, it's been many a fortnight since I have written to you. I'm sorry, that's all I've got.
And send it Pony Express.
And by the way,
would you? And
we never talk about this, but we are on Facebook. We are on Instagram.
Facebook,
Find us there.
Instagram. Hey, you know what else we don't ever
along.
talk about? Is how Red Flannel Coffee's on Facebook and mainly Facebook.
Yeah.
It gets posted on Instagram too, but I mainly post on Facebook. So give us a like and a follow on Red Flannel Coffee Co. on Facebook. Go to redflannelcoffeeco.com. Use PJ30 as your promo and get 30% off your coffee purchases.
all right. Well, hey, thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.